So there's one piece of advice I give every agency owner I work with, whether it's with coaching or mentoring or through EasyGrow, where I coach, and I've coached thousands of people in that program. And this piece of advice will literally save you millions of dollars as you scale up. And how do I know that? Well, me not doing it cost me $1.47 million over the lifetime of my agency. And how do I know that? Me and a coaching client, we sat down and worked it out, because I speak it out a lot, but I've never actually sat down and quantified the numbers. So if you want to learn from my mistake and save yourself literally millions of dollars in the future, then you need to watch this video. So for those that don't know who I am, my name is Jimmy. Everyone calls me Uncle Jimmy. And I just help agency owners like yourself run their agencies like a fucking business. Basically, there's so many people out there that put a focus on sales and not enough on keeping clients forever and providing a world-class customer experience, which is what I focus on, helping thousands and thousands of agency owners like yourself do over in my own programs and as a coach over at EasyGrow, which is Charlie Morgan's program. Okay, so what is this advice that I mentioned that could save you millions of dollars as you scale up? Well, it's quite simple, really. It's knowing when to switch gears as an agency owner. So let me explain this concept with how I lost so much money. Well, I was in the very fortunate position that I had a huge amount of growth early in my agency. So when I started my agency, I don't know, 9.5 years ago, or whatever it is now, it's called My Online Guy if anyone's interested. When I started that agency, it didn't take me long to get clients. That was never the issue for me. The issue was never getting clients. Like everyone else, the issue was keeping them. But because of that, I went from zero to about $40,000 a month in the space of 2 or 3 years. But then I went from 40 to 80 a month in about 6 months. And it was an absolutely crazy ride. Now, I was like a lot of you out there. During that $0 to $40,000 a month, it felt like a rocket had been strapped to my back. But because I was growing at a pretty steady pace and it wasn't exponential, it was manageable. I was able to just work really hard. I was able to put in extra hours and I was able to hire people to help me and keep it together, a little bit like a rocket ship, but we're constantly taping it up to make sure that it doesn't explode. So during that period, I just worked a lot of hours. I did a lot of the service delivery myself. I had VAs helping me here and there. I hired people to do little bits of the agency, like I hired a media buyer to help me, and just little bits like this. I also had Cam, my ops director, which helped a lot. But the thing is, that should have been a warning sign of what was to come. And it should have been a warning sign that the path that I was on was not the right path long-term for an agency. There were warning signs. I was working massive hours. I was working 12 hours a day, 14, 15 hours a day, and I was okay with that because I was making money. Well, I thought I was making money anyway. I was also keeping on top of the churn. We were getting more clients in than were leaving, which was also okay. But when I was growing at that pace, it still didn't feel quite right. And I should have listened to my gut. I've spoken about intuition and gut in previous videos, but I should have listened to my gut because my gut was telling me that I should slow down. I should slow down my growth and focus more on other parts of my agency that I knew I was putting on the wayside because I was just trying to fulfill what I promised to do. And boy, I wish I listened to my gut, because basically what happened when I went from $40,000 to $80,000 in a month, like everyone out there, I think what it was is I was just too scared the money was going to disappear and the jobs were going to disappear, because I didn't have any of those processes and systems in place. And I felt like I needed to make everything I possibly could before it disappeared. And because of that, I just ignored my gut and I just kept taking on clients and I just kept taking them all on and just kept working harder and harder and harder. Now, this is where it came to bite me square in the ass. So, like I said, I went from $40,000 to $80,000 a month really quickly. And that in huge part was to do with EasyGrow. I joined EasyGrow when there was like 20 of us. And there was Charlie Bow and myself and a few others. And I took what they did, but I already had some form of scale, so I was able to supercharge it with money. And I got excited. I got excited because I was growing really, really quick. But with that growth came a huge amount of inefficiency. I couldn't just work any harder because I was already working 12, 14-hour days as it is. And I've got a wife and kids, as you guys know. So what I did is I tried to hire my way into the growth. So I basically just grew, and I would just hire anyone and everyone that I could find. And eventually I got to $80,000 a month, and a little bit above that, sort of $95,000 a month is where it sort of peaked out. And I realized that I've gotten to this magical number that everyone talks about, this $1 million in revenue a year, 100,000 a month or whatever. And I'm making like $150,000 a year, and I'm working harder than I ever have in my life with all the stress of running a business. And so I was this close to giving it all up. I basically had a massive nervous breakdown, and I basically went, I'm done with this. I can't do this anymore, because I had a client leave me, a very big client, and they just said the service wasn't very good. And the churn was starting to creep up, and it was constant battles with the team that I hired. We weren't able to train them because I had no time to train them. The team was very inefficient, and I basically imploded. I had a massive nervous breakdown, basically was ready to walk away from the agency and burn hundreds of people. Luckily, I had amazing people around me, my wife Pauline and Cam, my ops director, who told me to take a week off work, go and just recenter, refocus, and we'll come up with a plan. That plan ended up being letting go of 90% of the team, letting go of a huge portion of the client base, and starting again the way my gut told me to do it. So what did we do in that period? Well, we basically sat down and looked at what we were doing and developed processes and systems and productized our service. We obviously took a massive financial hit during that time, as well as me almost dying from a nervous breakdown. But I'm happy to say, fast forward, we're in a better position financially than where we were. We're making more money, and I'm taking way more home than I was, probably 250 grand to 300 grand more than I was. And I'm only working 3 or 4 hours a day. So what is the moral of that story? Why did I decide to share that story with you? Because I have shared it before, but I really just want you to understand that you need to shift gears in this space. It's not just all growth. If you just go growth forever, eventually you will have the situation that happened to me happen to you, where you are working too hard, you're inefficient, and you're making no money, and you put your hands up and you go, I'm done with it. Now, you may not have the people around you to stop you making a stupid and dumb decision like shutting your agency down and burning bridges and probably getting sued. I was just very lucky I had people around me that were able to calm me down and go, hey, this isn't the end of the world. Let's try and work this out. So if you can take anything away from this story, understand that there is a time to go full noise, balls to the wall, get as much money as you can, and then there's times to slow down, and I'm about to share when I think those are for most agencies. So up until about $10,000 a month, you have to be going balls to the wall in acquisition. You have to do everything you possibly can to get clients. If units of time were 100 units, I would say spend 80 units of time acquiring customers, whether that's with the strategies you know how to do that with, and 20 doing everything else that's involved in the agency. But once you get to that stasis point where you are paying yourself enough to survive, not driving a Rolls Royce, but just survive, and enough to pay the bills of the agency, and you could hypothetically stay at that point forever, then slow the fuck down, okay? Slow down and realize that you don't have to speed run to 100K a month. It's okay to stop there, and it's okay to consolidate and work out what happens next after that, okay? I see a lot of agencies going down the path that I went on, which is strapping yourself to a rocket because you're worried that the clients are just going to disappear, or you're worried that there's not going to be enough businesses for everyone. It's just not the case. Those businesses will be there when you're ready to scale back up. So I want you, when you get to that stasis point, $8,000, $10,000 a month, for some people might be even less, where you can cover your bills as well as make a little bit of money for yourself so you can live. I want you to slow down there and switch from doing 80% acquisition to 20 acquisition and 80 service delivery processes, systems, and operations, and start to document and process everything you did to get there and everything you're doing to stay there, right? Because if you're only doing a little bit of acquisition and a whole lot of service delivery and keeping clients happy and things like that, then by virtue of the fact that you're doing less acquisition, you have to work on keeping clients for a longer period of time. Once you've done that for a couple of months, it doesn't have to be that, you don't have to be in that situation for 3-4 months. Just a couple of months, consolidate, take a breath, build all those processes and systems out that you've been meaning to do for a long time, then switch gears again and go back to doing acquisition until you break the systems that you built, and then stop again and fix everything that you broke and then start again. I guarantee you, if you do that, you will save yourself millions of dollars when you do get bigger, because the thing is, when you're bigger, the numbers are more consequential. So if you make a mistake when you're earning $2,000 a month, it's way different to make a mistake when you're earning $100,000 a month and that mistake costs you 20 grand. It's way different. The consequences are different. The results are different. So it's way better to iron out all the kinks in your agency when you're small and you have time to stay lean and sit there than trying to do that when you're big and you have a whole bunch of mouths to feed and you have the overhead and you can't really afford to stop and slow down. Because trust me, I knew when I got to about $60,000 a month, I knew that we had to stop and slow down and start to build on our processes. I just couldn't afford to. I had too many staff, I had too many clients to service that we had barely any time to do anything except deliver the service and find more customers. We had no time to do anything else. Whereas if I had just slowed down at $8,000 a month, $15,000 to $20,000 a month, $40,000 a month, $70,000 a month, these are the 4 stasis points I talk about. If I had just slowed down at those points and just consolidated what I did and really sat down and nutted out what needed to happen, then I probably wouldn't have had all the issues that I had scaling. And like I said, those issues cost me over $1 million over the lifetime of my agency, because it took years to re-ramp up the agency once I had imploded it. And we're talking like $80,000, $90,000 a month for years that I missed out on because I grew too fast, I didn't trust my gut, and I strapped myself to a rocket ship because I was too scared that it was all going to disappear. So don't be like me. Learn from my mistake, because it's the single biggest mistake I ever made in my agency. Learn from my mistake. And you may be thinking, oh, that doesn't affect me now and I'm going to do this, and this doesn't affect me now because I only have a couple of clients and it's not an issue. At some point, you will get exponential growth. It's inevitable. And all I want you to do is think about this video and come back to it and go, actually, I trust Jimmy. He knows what he's talking about. I'm just going to slow down for a little bit because it may go against what I want in life, which is to drive a Bugatti as quick as I can. But I also am building this because I want to create a lifestyle business that supports the lifestyle that I want. Not a business where I have to work 12 hours a day with all the stress in the world and only earn 150 grand a year. Because I guarantee you, if you just strap yourself to the rocket and send it to the moon without building any of your processes and systems and slowing down for that and changing gears, that's what's going to happen, is you're going to create yourself a well-paying job with all the stress of running a business on top. So guys, hopefully you found that helpful. I'll catch you in the next video.